WrestleBuddy Podcast. All about wrestling. Subscribe and follow for more content.
Welcome, Wrestle Buddies, to our weekly roundup show of all the week's wrestling action, highlights of all WWE, AEW, and Impact Wrestling. Joined today by our resident Impact specialist, Joe. How are we doing, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. And we have got the return of the Cupid. Harold, how are we doing, buddy?
The return of the Cupid. I like that. How you guys doing, man? It's good to be back.
It's good to have you back, man.
Lots to unpack on this week, so we'll get straight into it. And I think it's only fair that we start with AEW this week, just because of everything that happened with the Grand Slam. It was just awesome, really, wasn't it? And no better way to start than one of the best matches that I've seen in a long, long time in Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson on AEW Dynamite. Thought it was an awesome match, really, really well put together, told a great story. The selling by Bryan Danielson in this match was just unbelievable. Harold, what was your thoughts on this match?
That was a pay-per-view match. I think they should have saved that for a pay-per-view. I mean, I'm not doubting it was a good match or anything, right? But, you know, they're trying to make money. They're trying to compete. But I understand at the same time what they're trying to do is they're trying to catch up with other organizations that have televised events, right?
Yeah, I get that, but at the same...
That was definitely a pay-per-view type of match for sure.
Yeah, I think it will be a pay-per-view match, and I think by going the 30-minute time limit here, it just whetted people's appetite, but left us all wanting more. Is the whole thing that I got from this match, and I felt like they'd done it really well. I also wanted to point out as well is I thought it was a masterstroke by AEW to do this match as the first match on the card, because with it being a 30-minute time limit draw that we ended up getting in the end, I felt if we would have said a 20 or 30-minute time limit and then we would have had 30 minutes left of the show, people straight away would have been going, oh, well, look, here we go, 30-minute time limit. And by them putting it on the beginning of the show, I think it eradicated any kind of thoughts on it being a time draw. Did you see this match, Joe? What's your thoughts on that?
I've not seen it, no, but from what I can gather, it's been a good match, and Bryan Danielson is an awesome, awesome wrestler. So him and Kenny Omega is just gold dust in its own. I think it's a smart idea putting it on television rather than pay-per-view. Like you said, they want to make these big matches, but this also gives them room now to build up homegrown talent rather than bringing a WWE guy in and putting him straight on. So like on the main event on a pay-per-view. This is good for building up Kenny Omega as champion.
Yeah, and the selling that Bryan done on this match was unbelievable. I really thought it was. You know,
I've read his feedback on it on Twitter. You know, he's just saying he's loving what he's doing. People can complain about how he's gone about everything and all that stuff, but he's doing it because he enjoys it, and you can tell with the way he sells, the way he moves, everything he's doing, and the way he presents himself online. Just from me looking in, it's just amazing. He's just so professional and so down to earth. He's not letting anybody else push him around.
No, and you know, one thing that I did note on this, I read somebody on Twitter, I don't really know where they're getting the information from, but it seemed credible by the way they were talking about it, is once Daniel Bryanson got back to the, Bryan Danielson, got to the backstage area, apparently Tony Khan and a few others rushed over to him, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Why? Match went good. Why did it look bad or something? And apparently Tony Khan and a few of the backstage people thought he was actually injured in that match, which was just a level of selling that he'd done. Harold, what did you think on his selling in this match?
One of the best out there for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you can't ask them to do more than what they've already doing, because, you know, like, they're both good at selling it. You know, it's if they made you believe they were injured, they're doing their job.
Yeah. And obviously, I think the 30-minute time limit, we called it last week. We did say that it was going to be that. Well, I said it was going to be that. And it exactly was. But to be fair, it makes sense. It makes sense to the fact that it wasn't for the title. It makes sense with the draw because both fellas come out with much credibility, and it protects the both of them going into the, I think we'll see this match again, but it's going to be a long, drawn-out story, which I'm on board with. I think it's perfect. So after that match, we had CM Punk come out again. Now, I'm going to be hypocritical of CM Punk here. I'm going to be very hypocritical of him. So CM Punk come out and he stated that wrestling had finally come back to New York, which was obviously a very poorly disguised dig at WWE, because obviously the sports entertainment and the thing. Now, I'm going to have a dig at him because it's not what he said, but I think he is very, very hypocritical, because he's had his one match that he had against Darby Allin on All Out, and then he's come out week on week, promo, commentary, promo. Now, you cannot go on about how you've come back to professional wrestling, how professional wrestling's doing this, and all you're doing is sports entertainment by coming out and speaking on the mic week in, week out. If you want to sit down and destroy another company and say about sports entertainment via wrestle, get in the ring and wrestle every week, or shut up.
Yeah, damn right.
It really annoyed me on that. What's your thoughts on that, Harold?
Well, he's been taking gigs at WWE for years, ever since he left. So, I mean, it's not a surprise, actually. But the way he's doing it and how he's doing it, you'd think he'd be better than that.
Yeah, you think he'd grow up a bit more, to put it very immaturely. The way he's acting, he reminds you almost of Alberto El Patron, although he actually wrestled more than he did complain about WWE when he was in Impact Wrestling. But the same thing, he spent his half the time wrestling and the rest of the time taking jabs at Vince McMahon. And I said ages ago, I'm happy that CM Punk's gone to AEW and everything, but he's not a bigger draw for me as Bryan Danielson is, or even Ruby Riott and things like that. People they brought in now.
Yeah, so, I think don't get me wrong. I think he's a bigger draw in the short term. Yeah, but unless he starts getting in the ring and putting on really good matches and focusing on his matches and how he's going to perform rather than these thinly veiled digs, I just feel like the one thing with CM Punk at the moment is we had the Darby Allin match, which was great. He called Darby Allin out. Then it was very, very hastily put together feud with Big Hobbs. And it's kind of like, I want to see him go into a program now. Whether that's against all Team Taz members, I'm not sure I want to see that. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe MJF would be a good angle for him to go at now. But I want to see him go into a proper program rather than just these one-shot matches. Yeah,
that's just, I don't like that whole concept, just taking random people, at least give him a proper story to go down. It's not, if you're going to chuck him in with someone of equal size at least. So Darby Allin was a good guy to start off with. MJF is a good guy to go because MJF is one of the top guys in the company now. So, and CM Punk is portraying himself as a top guy. It's not like where everyone's saying put CM Punk in the ring with Brian Cage and watch him get completely destroyed.
Yeah, that's it. And as I say, I just want to see him go into a bit of a program with somebody and mean something rather than just coming out every week promo. Oh, I love wrestling and all the it's getting old now in my eyes. It was good at first. It was good to see him, but now it's time to move on. So after that, we had now I'm going to hold my hands up here because I am very critical of FTR. I don't think they've done as well in AEW as what people thought they would. But they are solid ring workers and they've done okay, but not kind of hit the heights. And I always use them as an example when people go, send them to AEW, they'll know what to do with them, because I don't feel like they've known what to do with FTR. I think they've just been treading water for a while. But in their match with Darby Allin and Sting, I thought the two of them put on a masterclass. They bumped around everywhere for Sting and made Sting look like $1 million. And I just thought it was fantastic. What's your thoughts on that, Harold?
I completely agree with everything you said, bro. There's not much. There's nothing I can add to it, actually.
Okay, and what do you think of FTR, Joe? Have you seen much of them, or?
I've not seen much of them, no. But, so I don't really have much to add. I'll just be going on for ages about
I mean,
something.
do you know what they are a very good tag team, very good in-ring workers. They're everything that the Young Bucks aren't in terms of storytelling and wrestling and whatnot. But for some reason, they just don't seem to be getting the character over in my eyes. You know, people probably disagree with me on this, but just my opinion, and you know, everybody has them. So we'll move on to the next match, which the next one, which was MJF and Brian Pillman Jr. I thought this was really good. MJF's just awesome, really, really awesome. And I thought it got Brian Pillman Jr. a real good bit of exposure, and it shows that he can do on his own rather than just having to be in the tag team in the Varsity Blondes that he's in at the moment. I think he's going to be a future star, I really do. And he just looks the absolute spit of his dad, doesn't he, Harold?
Yes, he does. And I've seen a little bit of that promo there, and looking up and then looking down through the mat. I thought that was a classic touch on MJF's part. Like, you can't have MJF without doing something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
then we had,
and Pillman was not scared of standing up for himself either. So it's a dream match.
Yeah, I thought he'd come with a nice bit of promo work as well, Brian Jr., considering we haven't seen a lot of promo work from him, and he showed that he can talk on the mic as well. He's getting better anyway, and it was nice to see that. I think that's going to be the end of that feud now. I think it was just a bit of a short and sweet one. It'd be interesting to see where MJF goes next, because there's a lot of possibilities. Me personally, I'd love to see him in the title picture. Don't think it's going to happen just yet. I think obviously Hangman's the one that's going to take the title, I think, next, isn't he? Whenever he makes his return. And hopefully in the future with MJF. If he doesn't have the belt within the next 2 years, I think AEW have missed a massive trick, because he's just brilliant. Other highlights on that match, it was Ruby Soho versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Not a great match, I didn't think. I didn't think they gelled well at all. There was some dangerous looking spots in this match as well that I thought was could have ended up very, very bad on one or the other, very serious injuries. I don't know whether, because they were the main event, it put pressure on them the way they felt like they had to deliver. But it did. I was concerned at certain points, I'm not going to lie, about the fact that I thought we were going to see some injuries on that. But apart from that, all in all, I thought it was a good show. What did you think of this show, Harold?
Number one, a lot of people are worried about Ruby Soho's worth ethic.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Okay. So on the AEW as a whole was a great show. If you just want to see some more in-depth analysis of that particular show, guys, do look on our YouTube channel, because WrestleBuddy Steve does a AEW Dynamite and Rampage review live stream on YouTube, so check them out, the ones that are there, and also look for them every Thursday and Saturday at 1 p.m. English time. Obviously wherever that is in your time, I don't know, but make sure you check them videos out if you want a bit more of an in-depth analysis for each individual match. Obviously we're just doing a review of the whole week, so we're not going to go too much into this. So we'll move on to Rampage. Obviously it was filmed on the same night. One of my friends was actually at the match, and he said that some of the dark matches on this were interesting. So Big Show actually wrestled 3 indie guys in a bit of a squash match, and then after that the Gun Club come out and stood up and had a bit of a face-to-face off with him, with no actual action that come off the back of that, which was quite interesting to know that they done that happened as well. But it is what it is. But CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Good match. Really good match. I thought it was better than the Darby Allin match for Punk. But it reiterates my kinds of reasons why, Joe, that I feel like he needs to wrestle more frequently. Because it seems like he's gone from the Darby Allin match. This one was a bit better. If he should be wrestling more frequently, do you think?
Definitely. If he's all talk and no action, then he's a wasted investment.
But also, a thing like Punk back in the day, you know, obviously I know you watched Punk when he was in his prime, shall we say. And he can get up to that level. He can get up to the level where he's in the conversations with Omega and Bryan and Hangman and all these really good wrestlers. Sammy Guevara, I put in that category. Miro as well as another one. You know, that could be a good feud for Punk to go against Miro. But I just feel like he needs, because we're seeing the improvement. 7 years is a long time. He really needs, and obviously over that time he said he didn't want nothing to do with wrestling. So we need to see him more of frequency, or he needs to be wrestling dark matches or backstage or whatever it may be to get up that momentum. What do you think on that, Harold?
I agree with everything you just said. I'm having problems here, so
okay, no problem. What do you think on that, Joe? Do you feel like, you know, he needs to be doing maybe some more backstage work to get up to that level?
Yeah, there's definitely some more dark matches at least. You know, that don't shove him straight into a big rivalry. We'll at least let him work his craft a bit more and get used to being in the ring a bit more. It's great to give him that match with Darby Allin, but I think they should have then let him drift off into the background a bit more rather than push him onto another match or have him do whatever he did. You know, like you said, 7 years is a long time. So, and it took a lot for him to actually finally hold his hand up and say, "Fine, I'm going to give this another go." So I've still got all that respect for him. In that end, it's just like you said. He's at the moment he's all talk, and that's not what we want to see.
No, and then we had Adam Cole and the Young Bucks defeated Christian Cage and Jurassic Express. Now, just to go back to the wrestling situation where it's wrestling versus sports entertainment, one of the guys, one of my friends who does the weekly podcast with myself, he was saying about Brandon Cutler, saying, well, you know, does Brandon Cutler need to get sacked then because he's just entertainment, isn't he, with the spray bottles and whatever else? He's not really a wrestler. But also Don Callis. Don Callis is awesome. I love Don Callis. Absolutely love him. I think he's, you know, it'll probably be a big statement this, but he's the Paul Heyman of AEW at present.
Definitely, yeah. Don Callis isn't an active wrestler. He's a manager. So the whole point of Don Callis is to be a showcase. You know, it's just a showboat.
The only criticism I've got with Don here is Don Callis come out with the Bucks and then joined the commentary team, which was already, I don't know how they managed to find a space for him on that desk because it was so full. It looked like my family at Christmas dinner where everybody's, you know what I'm on about, Joe, with British thing, isn't it? But we're all maybe for the American audience it's Thanksgiving, but they're all squashed into a table, and that's how I felt like the AEW commentary table looked on this one. As for the match, it was the normal Young Bucks high spots bonanza, which was okay. You know, it was a match on TV, not a bad match. I suppose if you're somebody who's new to the wrestling business and coming in and see all these fancy high spots, then it's really good. What do you think of that? Did you see that match, Harold, at all?
No, that one I didn't see. I would, from what the sounds of it, I wish I could have though.
Yeah, well, you can always go back and watch, can't you? Then we had Men of the Year versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. Really good match, solid match again. I was glad that Men of the Year won this match. Still think Jericho's entrance is awesome with the way the crowd just sing along with it. Brilliant. And that's about it. And then obviously we had Lucha Bros and Santa Tana and Ortiz versus Private Party, The Butcher and the Blade. Again, not a bad metal match. It was okay. Then Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay. Penelope Ford won that one. And then John Moxley, Eddie Kingston defeated Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki in the main event. You know, obviously we always have to have main event John in this. It's not Big Matt John, is main event John in AEW, isn't he? Even though the main event doesn't really mean much in AEW's programming at the moment. Not a bad match, and then Moxley got tied up, as did Kingston, and then we had somebody who you will be very familiar with, Joe. Homicide made an appearance.
Oh, fantastic.
New York's own Homicide with New York's own Eddie Kingston. Homicide come in, made the save. Obviously, Kingston and Moxley come over on that. Kingston got the pin, and then obviously Homicide and Moxley and Kingston celebrated to send a lovely New York crowd home happy at the end.
Just imagine the part now.
Yeah. Do you think Homicide's going to stay?
I think he might do. He's a free agent as far as I know, so I don't see any reason for him to come back to Impact Wrestling at the moment, really, unless Hernandez is going to decide to go it alone. And but even then they can't reform LAX because Conan's in AEW now, so it'd be the smartest thing would be to have Homicide go to AEW, maybe even join up with Santana and Ortiz and have them go on to the tag team route or trios route.
Yeah. Do you see him as an all elite wrestler?
Yeah, I do. I'm happy for him to come back to Impact Wrestling, but I think all elite wrestling or all elite wrestling is the better choice for him. Ring of Honor, maybe he could, no reason why he couldn't go there, but it would be somewhere like that. NWA wouldn't suit him too well, and I know he does do a bit of MLW as well. So AEW would be the better place for him.
Okay, doke. Well, on that case, we're going to hand over to yourself, Joe, for our weekly Impact roundup.
God, we come in fresh off of Victory Road, but rather than give you guys a huge rundown of the whole card, because that's just taking away the whole reason to buy the app or buy the YouTube subscription and go and check it out there. The biggest takeaway from that match was X Division champion Josh Alexander has invoked his option C clause of the X Division title, vacating it to face Christian Cage at Bound for Glory for the World Heavyweight title, which is a huge money making match. Just thinking about it, and the way they've built it up was awesome. I was not expecting it to happen. So hats off to Impact Wrestling. They pulled this out really well. Moving on to Impact Wrestling itself, as we head towards Bound for Glory, over the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a series of triple threat matches to decide who's the number one contender for the X Division title at Bound for Glory. There'll be a triple threat match there to have crown a new champion. First match next week for the number one, for the contendership spot will be against Laredo Kid versus Trey Miguel versus Alex Zane, who's making his debut to Impact Wrestling. This is someone else who I didn't know was coming to Impact Wrestling, so it's great. We have Laredo Kid's come back recently, a couple of weeks ago, and has absolutely excelled. He took off where he left off that 2 or 3 years ago, and Alex Zane coming in, I didn't know he'd gone from WWE, or I completely forgotten he'd gone from WWE. So having him come in, that's got me really excited now too, because I know he's awesome. He's a really talented wrestler. So that's huge positive there, and it's also going to be good to see what Trey Miguel can do with these two as well. He had a match with Laredo Kid at Victory Road in a 5-way match, and he had a really good show off offense there. So it's good to see Trey Miguel in the mix with everybody still. We finally got Deonna Purrazzo and Mickie James booked for Bound for Glory, so everyone can stop waiting for the inevitable to happen. Mickie James come out to the ring, called up Deonna Purrazzo to try and settle everything between them professionally one last time, but Deonna Purrazzo had none of it. Scott D'Amore came out and said, "Fine, you have a match at Bound for Glory." Done, dusted. Fight in the ring. Big laugh watching Deonna Purrazzo get her ass kicked, I must admit. And so we got the big match for Deonna Purrazzo at Bound for Glory sorted, but we still don't know what's happening for their Knockouts Knockdown. So there's still questions up in the air about that. Violent by Design have issued Rhino with a final warning after they assaulted him last week, after he lost their match. Next week he's got to give Eric Young his final answer. Is he going to stay with Eric Young and Joe Doring and Dina, or is he going to defy them and walk away? And Eric Young has said, "You don't walk away from Violent by Design." So this could be the moment we see Heath come back, or they're getting closer to the moment Heath comes back to bail out Rhino, and we get a match between Violent by Design and Heath and Rhino Bound for Glory is where I see this going. But I'm really excited about this, because Violent by Design have got an awesome, one of the best promo work in Impact Wrestling next to Decay. And the way Eric Young builds up the atmosphere and creates the tension on the mic or backstage, it really just draw you in. And so I'm waiting to see what happens now between, especially if Heath does come back, because I've got this feeling he is coming back very soon. The Collar Shot Gauntlet is coming back at Bound for Glory. Obviously, whoever wins that match gets a choice to go for whatever title they choose to. Last year, Rhino won it and went, eventually was going to go for the tag team titles with Heath, but Heath got injured at Bound for Glory. So that's why Bound by Design ended up being tag team champions when Eric Young forced him to cash in his trophy then to get the titles off of the Good Brothers. No, get the titles off of Finjuice. So at the moment, Rich Swann, Brian Myers, and Willie Mack have confirmed they're entering this match. So Willie Mack and Rich Swann are probably not going to be in the tag team title match at Bound for Glory, which is quite surprising. But Rich Swann said if he wins this, he's going to go for the World Championship again. And Willie Mack has said if he wins, he's going to go for the X Division Championship again. But there could also be a swerve because I can see no reason why they can't go for the X Division title and the tag belt or World title and tag belt. But it's going to be interesting to see who else comes into this 20 man women match. It's going to be really good. Christopher Daniels, Raj Singh, VSK, and El Fantasma all made a return this week. El Fantasma came out assisting Hikuleo and Chris Bay after David Finlay beat Hikuleo, and David Finlay and Juice Robinson were resisting a beatdown from Chris Bay and Hikuleo after the match, only to have El Fantasma come out and really, really up the game. So the Bullet Club have got 3 members now on Impact Wrestling, and we've also seen Jay Lethal obviously come in to bring Chris Bay into the Bullet Club to begin with. So the whole thing with the Bullet Club on Impact Wrestling is not just some one-off. This is Chris Bay's Bullet Club merchandise has sold out for has been the top-selling product on the Impact Wrestling website for 3 weeks in a row at least. According to the taping. So it's awesome what impact it's having, and it's a great move for Chris Bay. I've said it for people have questioned is it the right thing to happen for Chris Bay? I think it is. See where was I? Raj Singh came back during Rohit Raju's match versus Chelsea Green, attacking Matt Cardona and allowing Rohit Raju to roll up and get a pin over Chelsea Green. Raj Singh and Rohit Raju were originally with Desi Hit Squad on Impact Wrestling, and we hadn't seen Raj Singh for a very long time. So I'm interested to see what's happening with them now. Obviously, the rivalry between Rohit Raju, Matt Cardona, and Chelsea Green is sparked up even more after Matt Cardona had hoped he'd washed his hands of Rohit. This happens. So once again, Rohit's like a huge pain in everyone's ass and just not going away, and he's loving every single moment of it. VSK, we've not seen him really since January's set of tapings and his appearance at the Super X Cup at Genesis in January. He came back to Impact Wrestling to join Brian Myers in a tag team match versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack. Unfortunately, he was not successful in winning the match because one of Brian Myers' people under his flock was pushed off the turnbuckle, pushed Rich Swann off the turnbuckle to try and make Rich Swann hit the floor or fail a move, and instead Rich Swann managed to capitalize on it and roll up VSK and get the pin over him, much to Brian Myers' dismay. But I was reading the WrestleBuddy highlights on this too. I'm just, but what their thought of where this whole thing with Brian Myers is going, like it's like Raven's flock was, and like I can see that because Raven was a huge influence on Brian Myers, and Brian Myers is a huge fan of Raven from WWE and from his time in TNA. And just thinking about it now, you can see it more and more. Brian Myers is trying to be this level-headed guy who's got everyone pulling all the strings to get everyone together, and then he's got these 3 guys who just have no control underneath him at the moment. And now he's hoping VSK is this one guy who can keep things together. But whether VSK makes another return after this, I'm not entirely sure yet. This is still the first week of the new set of tapings, so we'll have to wait and see. And Christopher Daniels came back at the end of the night after Ace Austin and Madman Fulton attacked Josh Alexander and Christian Cage a second time. The night had opened with Josh Alexander talking about why he's cashing in his belt, and Christian coming out to just give him a friendly warning. that if you do it, then you're going to lose everything. You're not walking out Bound for Glory as champion. Ace Austin came out and attacked Christian and whacked him in the eye with a stick. And that led to a match of Josh Alexander and Ace Austin to finish the night off. And after the match, after Ace Austin lost, he and Madman Fulton came out, attacked Christian, who came out to try and save Josh Alexander, and then Christopher Danielson made a return. This is the first time in about at least 7 years that Christopher Daniels has come back to Impact Wrestling as well. So a huge response from the crowd. And Dio Brown went absolutely insane too. So you could feel the excitement on everybody's faces. And I'm interested to see where this is going to go, because I've not seen I've not seen Christopher Daniels since his time at AEW.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit familiar with him, but I'm not overly familiar with him. So it's going to be interesting to see how his contribution to Impact Wrestling goes. The number one contendership match for the Knockouts Tag Team titles is next week. This is for the Knockouts Tag Team title match at Knockouts Knockdown, which is also at the start of October. That's between Madison Rayne and Tennille Dashwood versus Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering, and they'll take on Rosemary and Jessica Havoc, who are the current Knockouts Tag Team champions. And Eddie Edwards and W. Morrissey will be one of the matches next week in a street fight after W. Morrissey powerbombed Eddie's wife at Victory Road. A huge jackknife powerbomb from a 7-foot monster to someone who's about 5'3". It was one of the amount of bumps Alicia Edwards takes is incredible. But even that had me jumping, just to see how him literally just not holding back and slamming her into the floor. And you think she's dead before she hit them. But of course, after hitting the powerbomb, Eddie Edwards took her out back, and him and Sally Callahan lost the match at Victory Road. So Eddie Edwards is out for revenge for his wife. Sally Callahan's out for revenge for himself. So him and Eddie Edwards, as much as they hate each other, are still working together with one interest in heart, and that is to get revenge on everyone. That match is set for next week, but there is also reports that Sami Callahan is injured at this set of tapings. He has broken his leg, so whether this injury comes next week, I'm not entirely sure. But he's going to be out for 6 to 8 months, so he's going to be missing the rest of the year, which is a huge blow, because I think the story with him and Eddie Edwards is probably setting up for a tag match at Bound for Glory, or definitely a tag match for the titles, Bound for Glory, or towards the end of the year. Because but there's still Moose and Morrissey. If they can stay together, I can still see them going for a tag title match soon. And next week also, Christopher Daniels will be facing off against Madman Fulton. That will probably be the main event of the night, obviously. But what a great way to give Madman Fulton some exposure too. He spent the majority of his time as a tag team wrestler rather than in singles competition. So to have him go up against a legend like Christopher Daniels is just a great way to showcase what both of them can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we have for Impact Wrestling.
Cool. All right, well, thanks, Joe. Obviously, I always appreciate you around the pond there. It's good for me because obviously, as I say, there's so much wrestling on at the moment. I don't always get a chance to catch up with Impact. I do always take your advice and catch up on the highlights of the stuff that you recommend. So it's always good to have you here to give us in-depth love. So thank you so much, Joe, and we look forward to hearing about it again next week. Okay, so we'll move on to WWE. Raw again this week wasn't too bad. Did move a little bit better than what it was. I think this, for me, was the first time Big E has looked like the champion. In the opening segment, really good dynamic and energy that he brought to it. He looked like he was comfortable on the mic. He just looked the part for the first time, and obviously he had the New Day back with him, which I always said should be the case. He should never ever split the New Day up because they just look so kind of out of the depth without each other. They just don't look right. It's always like you're looking and there's something missing. Then we had the New Day versus the Bloodline. It was the first match on the show. I know you did watch this one, Harold. So what did you think of the Bloodline match?
was a good way to start Raw because I agree with you. In my opinion, Raw had the better show this week in my eyes. They started it off, Roman Reigns right at the beginning and all that stuff, and the Bloodline going against the New Day and a 6-man tag. So that was a good start. That definitely hooked my interest, that's for sure. And then you had AJ Styles coming in there against Randy Orton.
Mm-hmm.
And Randy
Orton.
Orton
We'll get to that. What did you think of the Bloodline match? The Bloodline versus the New Day.
It made me want to still watch Raw. Is what it did.
Yeah.
It kept my interest to the point where I'll watch the rest of the card. See what else. We'll see what's up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see this match being a replay that Survivor Series 100% has to be the main event on Survivor Series. It's just a perfect Survivor Series match. Maybe even
for sure.
Naomi, I think, is going to join the Bloodline from the looks of SmackDown. Could be happening, could be not. We'll see as it goes on a bit more. But maybe with Naomi with the Bloodline and maybe Bianca Belair with the New Day, it'd be a good little mixture.
I would like the Bloodline better if Nia Jax hadn't got injured and she could have joined the Bloodline. Have a true Samoan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Naomi's married to Jimmy, so it blends into the storyline quite easy, doesn't it? But anyway,
no.
I thought we were going to get a screwy finish in this one, and we didn't. Obviously, we got the win for the Bloodline. Obviously, it can go further than this. One thing I did say was the commercial break in between. Annoyed me a little bit. But well, hey ho, not a bad match. I'd say want to see it redone with a bit more build, and we definitely have got something there between them two factions. I do like a good faction, so hopefully the WWE starts to bring a few more factions in. I think it'll help them, especially in terms of to stop them having repeat matches with people. If you've got a faction, you can kind of write the storyline and keep the main two competitors away from each other. So hopefully we may see this with the New Day and the Bloodline if we ever get a Big E versus Roman Reigns kind of deal. Then we moved on to Doudrop versus Marie. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Randy Orton versus AJ Styles, as we said. What's not to like about this match? Orton got the win, but all in all, these two guys, you want to talk about a good wrestling match. You're never going to get a bad one with Randy and AJ, are you, Harold?
No. I think this was probably for me the match of the night because they're two young, kind of like basically started two young studs going for number one supremacy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean the only thing again is a bit of criticism is the fact of we're still getting these roundabouts of Orton, Styles, Omos, and Riddle. So I'd like to see that kind of come out of the rotation now and move on to something else. But if it comes up with something good, then I'm all for it. Shayna Baszler versus Nia Jax was the next one on the card. Baszler won this match, which I was over the moon about. She's so underrated, Shayna Baszler. You could do so much with her. She's very credible, obviously, for the time in the UFC. And then we got Nia Jax got injured in this match and looks like she's going to be out for a while. I think, now, I may be being a bit cynical here, but after she's got in with Charlotte and she hurt Charlotte, she botched a few bits, didn't she, with Charlotte, and she's been known to botch it with quite a few people.
When is Nia Jax not botched a few bits?
yeah. So I think this should be a good way to write it out with injury and then pop her back to NXT.
Yeah. Definitely. I agree. I think it just does everyone a bit of a favor. It does her a favor as well. It takes a lot more pressure off of her, so she's not. But it seems she's a bit out of her depth at the moment outside of NXT. Is clearly hampering her ability, and so I think it's best for her as well.
Okay, so after that we moved on to let's put these two people together because we've got nothing else for them. Mustafa Ali and Mansoor versus Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. Garza and Carrillo defeated. Yeah, they defeated Ali and Mansoor in a squash match. Is what it is. I think that they look like they've got a bit of a theme to the tag team, saying they've come together for family, etc. not mad at that. I just like tag teams with a bit of a theme to them. I don't like them just throwing people together. Nikki HS and Rhea Ripley style. But, you know,
The advantage is that they are family too, right?
Yeah, but one thing that we will see coming forward, not into the long too distant future, will be Mansoor beating everyone, because we're in the lead up to the Saudi show. And obviously, Mansoor is the only Saudi WWE have, so it wouldn't even surprise me if he won the title for the night and then dropped it the next night on Raw.
Yeah, like Ginger Mahal did.
No. Main event of the show: Nikki AHS and Rhea Ripley versus Natalya and Tamina. Nikki AHS and Rhea went over here. So frustrating for me, because they could have done so much with the Alexa Bliss Lily winning the tag team titles for me. But they haven't gone down that route. Women's tag team titles is passed from one team that they put together because they had nothing creative for them to another team that they had no creative for, and they put together in AHS and Ripley. Not a fan of it at all, but it is what it is. One thing I will say is really good show, all in all. I thought it was, when I say a really good show, it was better than what the Raws have been. It'd be interesting to see how they progress these storylines, and also I feel like we're starting to really see WWE now trying to fight back against the AEW noise that's been going on, and I feel like this is the first bits of it. We haven't seen full flow yet, I don't think, but Eric Bischoff tweeted something out saying that he knows Vince McMahon, and the best Vince McMahon is the Vince McMahon in a fight. This is about to get interesting. And I think he was right, because I felt like the AEW All Out show and then the Grand Slam shows is where I've actually sat back and thought, could they actually be credible here? So it'll be interesting to see what we see from WWE going forward. Just going to skip over NXT. Didn't think not a lot happened here this week. No, didn't think it was a great show. Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong beat Kushida for the Cruiserweight title.
That's the only bright point of the night.
Yeah, I don't think that he should have won this match, but hey ho, is what it is. Kaylee Ray squashed Mary Miller. Don't see the points in it, but it looks like Kaylee Ray is starting to get a bit of a push. NXT, not mad at that. Dancy, sorry, go ahead.
I see her being NXT Women's Champion within a year.
Yeah,
if not sooner.
Other highlights on here: Cameron Grimes versus Joe Gacy. I feel Cameron Grimes needs to come onto the main roster now. He's awesome, so hopefully we'll see that too. Elektra Lopez with Legado del Fantasma beat Anna Shea. Again, yeah, is what it is. Wasn't nothing really. Odyssey Jones versus Carly Millman and Darren Chiapetta.
Who?
Jones defeated the two of them. Yeah, exactly. But that's what we're getting a lot of on this show at the moment. Toxic Attraction was a highlight for me. I thought Mandy Rose looked really good with the dark hair, and also that whole little faction looks really good. So it'll be interesting to see how they're getting built really well, I think. And then we had Tommaso Ciampa and Bron Breakker versus Pete Dunne and Ridge Holland. Not a bad little match, but not really interested in that.
We also know we know who Breakker is too, right?
Yeah. Little Steiner.
Yeah.
But all in all, it wasn't a bad show. It done what it needed to do, and it got us a little bit, closer to these new faces. And I feel like NXT, which is cool, I'm not knocking it one bit, is they're starting to build storylines again now, and kind of we started that. Do you know what I mean? Kind of building them storylines and getting to know the new faces, and we're in that kind of rotation, which is cool. No problem with that at all. I would have liked to have seen. Oh God, what was his name now? He was in the main event the week before. I would have liked to have got to see him a bit more.
LA Knight.
I can't remember. No, LA Knight was on the show. Alex, help me out here. I can't remember his name. He was in the Fatal 4-Way for the title. The new guy. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of him come out of this. But I say, all in all, I just feel like at the moment it was a good show. Don't get me wrong. I watched the show, watched it from start to finish, but we're just building. We're building at the moment, so let's get there, and then we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, you got
so we will move.
During a new period.
Yeah. So we will move on to Friday Night SmackDown. Now, they announced on this that the main there was going to be a main event of Roman Reigns versus Montez Ford. Wasn't mad for this at all. We've said that Montez was going to be a main event star. I think a lot of people have said that he's got the potential, and it's just to ease him up there and stuff. And I weren't mad at this at all. Wasn't mad. Thought it was great. Obviously, the Street Profits are in a bit of a thing with the Usos, so it's intertwined with the stories. It makes sense. Thought it was a good move.
I thought it was great because, like you said, it keeps those intertwining storylines going because they don't have to necessarily concentrate on Roman Reigns. They can also concentrate on the Usos too, right?
Yeah. Bianca Belair dropped Becky Lynch was another one with the kiss of death. Here's our mascot. Hey.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I'm not liking this feud. I hope that if Becky beats Bianca moves over to Raw because I'd love to see Bianca versus Charlotte. I think physically that would be an awesome match to watch. And also I feel like Charlotte hasn't got many credible threats after Alexa Bliss over that side of things. So it'd be good to see Bianca go over there and do some good work there and potentially win that title off Charlotte. Also feel like we need to see a bit of NXT superstars come out in the draft as well. Don't know who, but be interesting to see.
Thank you, Money, for one.
I would love to see Bianca Belair turn as a heel and have a proper match against Becky Lynch. This heel, this face stuff is not working for me right now.
No, well, she's not a face; she's a heel, or she's trying to be. Which obviously, the fact that you don't know she's a heel is everything that's wrong with it at the moment, and that's the thing. She's just not a heel. She's trying to be one, but she just isn't one.
She's too good to be a heel.
Yeah. Seth Rollins come out and cut another great promo on Edge. does solid work. He's just really, really good, Seth. Selena Vega defeated Liv Morgan, but I see Liv Morgan's got a singles match on the pay-per-view versus Carmella, so I'm not mad at that. Obviously, it was Carmella that made the distraction to cost the match. Just happy that Liv's getting on to some on a pay-per-view. Also, what I noticed as well is Michael Cole did state in this that Liv Morgan is a social media darling. So hopefully WWE is starting to take note of people actually really do like Liv Morgan, and she does get pop some crowds as well. So hopefully we'll see them do a bit more with her now, which would be really, really nice to see. Kevin Owens was attacked on Happy Time, which was awesome.
Happy talk.
Happy talk. I do apologize. Which is really good.
This happy talk Baron Corbin thing is not doing it for me.
Yeah.
Why don't you
I love it.
Like he was at the beginning? Turn it back into what he was, because that worked.
Yeah.
Don't
I love
it.
I enjoyed Baron Corbin when he was originally I thought it was really. I thought he had that wow factor.
But you know what? At the moment, he's been the down in the dumps guy, and now he's got himself back on top, and he's called himself Happy Corbin, and he's just an absolute straight up dickhead, and I love it. I love it. I just feel like he's so obnoxious, and it's kind of like he's forgot about the fact he had nothing now, and he's just this very arrogant, and
doesn't care.
And no, and they're doing a lot of social media stuff like with him in suits and TikToks and all this palaver, and it's really good to see. To be fair, I feel like they're really building the character well, and he's like a modern day $1 million man to me.
Give him back his hair, give him the black carpet, let him come out with his black metal music.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if we see Cameron Grimes come up to the main roster and have a little feud with him. You know what I mean? It'd be quite cool.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So we've got Nikki AHS versus Natalia. Yeah, is what it is. Match on the card, fill it. And then the most interesting part for me was Naomi was escorted off the off-site by security for requesting demanding a match over.
At one stage, Sonya Deville has a power trip.
Well,
is she evading Naomi? This brings up the question: is she evading Naomi's challenge, and she's using her power trip?
They're building something here. Now, I would like to think eventually when it does come to it, and Sonya tries to do something else with Naomi, and then Paul Heyman comes over to Naomi and like, you're part of the or Jimmy Uso, her husband, and kind of like, you're part of the bloodline. Why are you letting people do this to you? And then it's like Roman's like, bring it in, do you know what I mean? And bring it as part of the bloodline, which would be awesome. So I'm not mad at that. It'd be a good one to go. So that is our SmackDown review. That is our WWE review for the week. Apart from that, guys, I think that's our week in wrestling, isn't it? I think we covered everything.
Except for one fact that Roman Reigns dominated Montez Ford in the main event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which we discussed at the start.
I think that was a good call on the creative's part or whoever was in charge of that show for that night. I loved seeing Montez Ford getting that shot because he has earned it. He has deserved it. He has earned it. Therefore, deserves it.
Yeah. Okay, and then we've got
it turned into a squash match, basically.
Well, I don't think that's too bad. I think it's just where Roman's at the moment, isn't it? And Montel's not ready to be a main eventer just yet, but he's, it'll be a good experience for him and good exposure. And then obviously we had the Finn Balor attack on Roman to set up Extreme Rules. Could you guys see Roman losing the title at this point?
Probably not.
No.
honestly hope so, just to see a different champion, because I'm not a huge fan of Roman Reigns, and Finn Balor does deserve another title run and a decent title run. But I think Roman Reigns is going to hold the championship through to WrestleMania, and then lose it sometime afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see how it goes.
I wouldn't be sad at that. I wouldn't be sad at seeing the almighty Bobby Lashley take it from Roman Reigns, therefore establishing the true alpha, as we should say.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got, obviously, next week, we've got the draft, so we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about. Also, we'll have our first pod from the Friday Night SmackDown draft with the weekly roundup, and then obviously the draft finishes on Raw on the Monday. So it's going to be interesting how they do this stuff. I think the only ones that really kind of set in stone is the Drew McIntyre to SmackDown. I think everything else is kind of open for negotiation and move. So it'll be interesting to see how they do with that. But as all, it was really, really interesting weekend in wrestling. So, guys, thanks for joining us today. Joe, thanks so much. Can you just tell the guys where you can find you on social media, etc.?
Yeah, you can jump onto Twitter and follow me at JKEmptySpace, and you can check me out on WrestleBuddy as well for my recent article on Rosemary and other Impact-related content.
Mm-hmm. Harold, thank you so much for joining us, mate. Always a pleasure to have the Reverend conducting service. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at the RevCupid61 on my own personal thing, and you can also check me out at WrestleBuddy Podcast here.
Cool.
And it's my gamer's page on PSN and Xbox and all that other stuff.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us this week. Do make sure you go and check out the website for some of our fantastic articles. I was lucky enough to sit down with Carlito this week and have a chat with him.
Great job, brother.
All things WWE and what he thinks of the current content and what he thinks about Ric Flair's Dark Side of the Ring, all this kind of stuff. So do go out and check out the interview. It's really, really good. And I say, go and check out all the content that we have on the channel. We have some amazing stuff on there. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we will see you again next week. Until then, you all take care, and we will speak again soon. Bye now.
Take care, guys.
When we wave goodbye.